Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I'm excited to share my conversation today with Dr. Elizabeth Alvarado. She is the founder and creative director of Littl Language Adventures. Over the past 20 years, Dr. Elizabeth, or I'm going to call her Liz from here on out, has worked in various areas of education, from teaching preschool to graduate students. She's also worked in school administration and most recently, educational entrepreneurship. She attributes becoming an entrepreneur to her search for a multilingual resource for her own children and students. Welcome to the show today, Liz.
Hi, Felina. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. I'm excited to talk about your business. You are up to some pretty cool things. And I know because I've had a chance to get to know you, obviously through Hera Hub and the launch program that we did about a year or so ago. You really are, have taken this opportunity to pivot your business from a childcare facility into online education and online learning. But before we get to that, I want to go back and, get the story. We always want to get the story behind our entrepreneurs. So talk about, what part of the country were you raised in? Talk a bit about some of the educational choices you made. I know you lived abroad for a while, and then we'll get up to kind of current day here in your business.
Sure, of course. So I grew up in the Midwest. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. I am from a bicultural family. My dad is from Peru, and my mom is a Midwesterner. She's a German heritage Midwesterner. And let's see, that set the stage for a lot of my upbringing in terms of identifying myself as bicultural and Latina. And growing up, I loved visiting Peru, kind of understanding more about my dad's side, the culture, the language. I loved learning Spanish. And we traveled a lot in my childhood. So I definitely caught a little wanderlust bug as a child that's carried through my adulthood. So let's see, from there, I went to the University of Wisconsin. I started my degree there and I was studying history. And then I moved abroad. I moved to Spain for 4.5 years. And it's a very strange thing. I mean, it's a fun fact about me. I was studying and performing flamenco dance during that time.
What? So, that is so stinking cool. I had no idea. That's awesome. What prompted you to start flamenco dancing?
So I always loved dance. I didn't start at a super young age because I wasn't introduced to it too young. But when I was around 16 or 17, I really found myself more, I gravitated towards movement and expressive dance. And then at the time I went abroad and I was very into the music. I was very into the performance art, and I discovered flamenco when I was living in Spain. And I don't know if you know anything about flamenco, but it's very fiery and it's very passionate and it's very addictive. So it's like the more that you're around it, the more you want to be around it. And especially for me, I was always kind of a shy person. And it's really so expressive. It's just the opposite. It is so strong. It is so grounded. It is so passionate. And discovering it, it became a passion of mine and almost like, a little addiction. And the more I studied it, the more I wanted to practice. And I went on like that for several years.
Wow, that's amazing. Interestingly enough, Liz, I lived in Spain not nearly as long as you did, only for like 3 months a summer between my junior and senior year of college. And definitely can appreciate flamenco. I mean, gorgeous, gorgeous dance. And I do remember going to flamenco shows when I was there. So I think that's really, really cool that you were drawn to it and then did it for so long. Where did you live for those 4.5 years in Spain?
I lived in Sevilla. And then I spent a little time at a dance school in Granada. Mm-hmm. Then I moved to Mallorca because there was a good, healthy tourist industry. And I was performing in like flamenco, sort of like a tourist, performance group.
That's so cool. Well, all amazing cities. I lived in Toledo, nice. But Sevilla, yes, definitely is the epicenter of culture and dance there. That's awesome. What ultimately drew you to leave Spain and come back?
So my education, I sort of knew that I wanted more, and I explored higher education pathways in Spain. It was very complicated. It seemed like, it was just something that I knew I could be more efficient with if I just went back to the United States and finished my degree where I started it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you came back and eventually you got your PhD. So how did we get from there to getting a graduate degree? That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So when I moved back, it was sort of like, just graduating from college, even though I was, in my later 20s, but I was kind of hitting the job market, not as a flamenco dancer for the first time. And I thought, well, what do I want to do? I have a history degree. Usually people, I guess I would say that's sort of setting me up for going into teaching. And I considered it. I actually worked at a preschool. That was my first foray into teaching. And I just got to hang out with the little kids all day. And it was, it's extremely hard, challenging work, but I just felt so fulfilled at the end of the day that I caught, that's another little bug that I caught where I thought, I do want to feel like this. I want to feel as this connected, this sort of, this connected to other people. It really sort of, it met my needs too, in terms of, the kind of social interactions, the type of work that I like to do. I became a preschool teacher, and then I decided, okay, well, since I like this, maybe I want to become an elementary school teacher. So in Texas, I went and I got my bilingual education certification, and I did a couple of years teaching in Austin, Texas. I forgot to tell you that I moved to Texas somewhere.
That's okay. Don't worry. It's all good. It's all good. We're following along.
But I went to Austin, I got the degree, and I really absolutely adored teaching. I loved teaching. I had a lot of students that were recent arrivals from Central and South America, and mostly Central America. And it was really fulfilling work. But again, it was really, really challenging because it's just, it is what it is. But, these are schools with limited resources, and their families with extremely limited resources. So, there's so much work to be done in this area. There really is, and improving educational opportunities for students that come and are minority language speakers. So I decided that my partner at the time needed to move for work. And I thought, in the United States, you have to every time you change states. So I thought, well, instead of recertifying and becoming a teacher in Massachusetts, why don't I go to get my graduate degree in education? And I can work on some of these more structural issues that I'm really witnessing here on the ground. So I went to the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and I did a program called Education Policy and Management. And I focused on social justice and English language learners. And that was just 1 year. It was a very quick program, and I felt like it wasn't quite enough. So when I graduated with my master's degree, from there, I looked for a PhD program where I could continue the work. I could really find a match in terms of like a mentor and an advisor who was interested in the same subjects and the same areas of education that I was interested in. And I found that at UCLA. So I ended up enrolling in the urban schooling program at UCLA.
Wow. So did you do that distance learning or did you come back to the West Coast?
No, that is when we moved to Los Angeles.
Okay. Okay.
So I
Great.
started my family in Los Angeles, and I lived in LA for it was about a little over 3 years.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I mean, huge accomplishment to get a PhD. That is really, seriously, it's something I considered a long time ago after I did my master's degree and did some like adjunct teaching at the college level. And my mentor was like, you need to get your PhD. Okay, someday maybe we'll come back to that. So
yeah, it is. It's a really big commitment. And, in terms of like, if you do like a cost benefit analysis of it will never make sense. It will never make sense on paper. It will only make sense if you truly feel like it's something that you need to do. And especially in a field like education, I hate to say, but
yes, no, that makes a lot of sense. So you opened your own childcare facility, is that right?
Yes. So after I graduated, I was a researcher for a while. I worked on program assessments for a program called Puente, which is actually a community college program that helps students transfer from community colleges into four-year colleges. It was somewhat related to, it just all matched with my interests in social justice education, especially pertaining to English learners. So after I did that, I thought I need to get back in the classroom. I need to get back because that is where the action, like it's really hard for me to talk about these things without having, fresh experiences and really integrating what I'm learning to the action that's taking place. And so I thought I really do want to go back into the classroom for a while. So that actually, and then I found a Waldorf program. I don't know if you know anything about Waldorf.
Yeah, I have a friend that owns a Waldorf school up in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. So I found a Waldorf school to teach at in Fallbrook, actually not far from here in North County. And I decided this is just going to continue my repertoire of education here. Like I'm going to learn something new. So I went and I taught at the Waldorf School for a year. And it was great to get back in there. And I love that the Waldorf, they're such an essential, they just focus on essential and sort of bringing back the joy into the classroom, the joy of learning, of, the arts. I mean, things that you consider to be others consider to be like sort of tangents or less important parts of a curriculum, like art class, like foreign language, like music. Waldorf education, they embrace it to be a part of the core curriculum. So that was extremely appealing to me. And I became the Spanish teacher and I was the second and third grade techer. So I had a big teaching load. I had a big teaching load. I was a charter school. So, it's, they do what they can.
You were also the lunchroom monitor. No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
Yeah. I mean, it is practically that, but it was a lot because of that reason. I carried so many responsibilities, but it gave me a vision for something that I wanted to create kind of on my own, which was creating a Waldorf inspired Spanish immersion preschool program. It kind of took me back to my roots where I had started in the preschool, in those early schooling experiences where kids are, they're just sponges. There's so much to learn. They're kind of so open, but at the same time, it's so impactful. Everything is so impactful at that young age. I mean, it is for children at any age, but the littler
especially that age.
Yeah.
So you then, is that when you branched out on your own and then opened your own?
Yes.
Okay.
From there, I opened my preschool.
Wow. And where was that preschool based?
It was in Oceanside.
Okay, great. And talk just a bit about the school. I want to make sure that we get to your business, your current business too. And obviously for like a lot of us, COVID has changed a bit of our focus and what we're doing. So in what year did you launch the preschool?
I launched, I think technically it was 2018.
Okay, great. Awesome. And just, obviously moving towards the conversation about your current business, was COVID part of the reason that you transitioned into your current business or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been challenging.
It was challenging, but I wasn't going to, I think everything that I've done has been pretty challenging. Like I haven't taken on small things. I've done almost exclusively things that are really big.
Yeah.
And at some point in pretty much all of my journeys, I've thought, I don't know if I can do this anymore. This is really hard.
Yeah.
And so this was one that I actually didn't fight too much. I didn't put up the fight. I said, I think that I could have stayed and fought longer and harder, but I knew I had my own kids coming home. And I knew that I was never going to be comfortable being an absentee manager of a school where, I have really, really young children.
Yeah.
It's just, it was very hard for me to step away and say, no, I don't want to be a part of this on a daily basis, or I trust others to perform all this work without my guidance. Yeah. My personality just is such that I didn't feel comfortable with that. So I thought it's going to have to be one thing or the other. And I'm just going to have to make up my mind and I'm going to have to accept it. Like COVID is not a perfect situation. There's not perfect outcomes for really anyone right now. So just, as long as we're healthy and we're enjoying, for the most part, the work that we do on a daily basis, I wasn't going to, I wasn't going to mourn. Occasionally, like it's hard for me to look at pictures and things because I think, oh my gosh, what a different life.
Yeah. I mean, launching launching any business is difficult, but launching a brick and mortar business is especially difficult. And so I can imagine, that must have been difficult to make that decision and look back, but it was,
but I'm so grateful. I did have a buyer for my business. It was we had a very humble, I sold for a very humble amount of money, but it was so nice to know that she felt connected to the school and she felt like there was some sort of magic there for her. It really made me so happy, it made me so happy that she just thought like this place is somehow you made this place magical. And and so I was like, wow, you see that's amazing.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Well, let's get to your current business. And obviously grew out, I'm guessing, just based on your experience of being multicultural, traveling abroad, learning language. So your business is Littl Language Adventures, and you can find Liz at littlelanguageadventures.com. Talk about the company, what you do, who you serve. I know you're going to be launching some exciting things soon.
Yeah. So the company, I'm trying to design, as close to a comprehensive and just really dynamic program for young children. So when I say that, I'm talking about, the needs of young learners are quite different from the needs of, adult learners or even, like teenage learners. The young children have shorter attention spans. They need more kind of movement based. They need, physical. They need more. They're just a different type of learner. So I really wanted to see if I could make this program, an online program, work for these really young kids. So that is what I've done at every step, whether it's in video production, or whether it's in designing art activities, art projects, or what else? Little digital games. I've tried to make it all as friendly as possible to these young learners, regardless of their learning style. I mean, if I wanted to include I wanted to have online components as well as hands-on components, because really the young child absolutely needs both.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a lot of consideration to take into building an online curriculum, but you obviously are the perfect person to do it because you have so much behind you as far as experience and education. So if somebody's listening and they have, say the age range again of the focus.
We target children ages 2 to 8.
2 to 8. Okay, great. So if someone's listening and they have a child in that range, or they know someone who does, what should they be looking for, so to speak? They go to your site. How does it work?
So currently we're launching our first Spanish course, and the course includes 12 lessons, and each lesson includes 7 activities. So there's more than 80 little activities embedded. It's
wow.
It's quite a big course, but I don't want to intimidate anyone when I say that. It's designed to be self-paced. So I tell people you could do 1 activity a day or a couple per week. We do have a weekly Zoom class that we include with the course, and that will really bring to life a lot of the material that both parts, I think, are essential. So I don't think it's enough for someone to just attend a live lesson. I mean, it's enriching, but we've carefully designed all these extra activities because language learning is about repetition too. You need it over and over and over again. And the best way to get that repetition is through music. So we include a song in each lesson, and hopefully that song is put on replay over and over and over again, because that is where all of that repetition will produce, the fluency, the confidence, and if nothing else, just listening. Just listening. That's stage 1, is just listening over and over and over again. And then the class gives a little bit more time for using the language. And it's really just an invitation, because obviously young learners that are introduced to a language for the first time might not feel confident but it's really an invitation to start putting the language into use.
And kids are so great at repeating things. So
it's amazing,
right? I mean, oh my gosh, I have friends who have little ones, and that a song that comes on the radio that maybe isn't appropriate for a 4-year-old to sing, suddenly she's belting out the lyrics of the song. They're like, let's redirect this to learning a language.
Exactly. Which is what, we're trying to do too with online time, the screen time. But we've designed our videos and our products to be almost a form of entertainment, so they can sort of take the place of some of these, more, maybe they're not exactly mindless, but they're certainly not as enriching as something that's targeting, teaching a new language. This is the prime time, those years of the prime time. So that's incredible. Wow. So, again, kind of on the how it works side of things, do folks pay like a subscription, or do they buy a class at a time? We played around, and I decided against subscription models because as a parent, I know I never appreciate it when I unbewittingly sign up for a subscription. Like, I just wanted the course, and now suddenly I'm roped into this. We have too many things on our to-do list to always remember to cancel everything that every trial we sign up for, I don't appreciate those sales models. So as a business person, I thought, I'm not going to sell that course. I would like to sell people 1 course at a time, and we're going to keep them rolling out, and you can enroll in the courses that meet your needs, that appeal to your interests. And where we will start to differentiate a little bit is adding some semi-private and private classes, like Zoom lessons. We're not offering that just yet, but that will become available in the upcoming year.
I love it. Exciting. And if somebody wants to purchase a class, or, maybe classes are priced differently, but, budget wise, what should folks be thinking about?
So right now with our large group Zoom, we have them priced at $149 per class. So the course includes all that I described, the 80 plus a large group weekly Zoom. When we start moving into the semi-private and private Zooms, that's where the pricing will differentiate based on, basically how much time you're spending with an instructor.
Yeah. Makes sense. That's great. Awesome. So Elizabeth, if folks want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to learn more, what's the best way for them to do that?
It's Littl Language Adventures, everything. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're trying to get on TikTok right now with our puppets. We have a few puppet friends that are getting on with us. And so hopefully there will be some fun and engaging content for people who are, want to keep in touch with us. Yeah.
TikTok seems like a good channel. I'm glad you're going to be jumping
fun.
on.
So I have a monkey and a frog and a dog that will all be featured on TikTok.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, Liz, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Felina. Your work is incredible too. I'm just so happy to be able to share this all with you.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.